Welcome back, all you Fabricans and Fleshbags, to the super, not, funny show, Reviews! I am Jen Thépuppét, your resident Fabricant and commenter extraordinaire on all things pop culture. And today we're going to be reviewing the 8th episode of Debris, which is coming to you from NBC and, of course, streaming on Peacock and on Hulu. So, was it good? Was it bad? And should you be watching? Stick around because I have opinions. Debris, Episode 8, entitled Spaceman, and continuing with a theme, I guess, for this whole show, is a title that doesn't seem to have anything to do with what's actually happening in the episode. I imagine maybe it makes sense later on. Right now, no space, lots of men, but no spacemen. So I don't know what it means. But you know what? It's a sci-fi show. It's a wannabe X-Files. So maybe it'll make sense eventually. Either way, in this episode we're following a long-running plot thread about Fenola's dad. And now that all the cards are on the table, it's apparent that the captured influx agent has given them a location for her dad. Her dad, who is apparently, I guess, very important to the study of debris and maybe whatever the influx is doing. And it's decided by Maddox and I guess jointly by Ferris, who is the MI6 leader, that the boss of Fenola, that they're going to go and rescue, okay, can I put quotes around that? Rescue Fenola's dad, George. But of course, it's never that easy. What did we learn about this episode, or this show, this episode is reinforcing, is that neither sides trust each other. There's a three-way battle here. Two sides that are nominally on the same side, and Influx, who is kind of doing their own thing. And what we have is a lot of CIA, intelligence agency shenanigans going on, and that's what we get here. Maddox pulls Brian aside and is like, "Hey, make sure that George doesn't live through this. That's right, kill this guy before we can extract him, and just kind of make sure Fenola's out of the way." And Fenola gets a funny call that also says that, hey, MI6 doesn't trust the Americans on this, and we're going to extract your dad without letting the CIA get a hold of him. All this cloak and dagger shit's going on, and it really made me wonder, oh my God, am I going to have to start hating on Brian and Fenola again because they're going to be doing this, intelligence agency shenanigans? I thought they had, decided to trust each other. And, Brian pushes back and all that. But the most important thing is that Brian does the right thing. He has taken, has taken the step to earn Fenola's trust and does not break it. And neither does she. She tells him about what Ferris says. He tells her what Maddox says, and promises to keep her dad alive. And the rest of this episode, the first half of this episode is pretty action heavy, actually, for this show. A show that clearly can have action, but tends to veer more towards the sci-fi, the wonder of the sci-fi, bauble of the week that makes shit happen. But in this case, there's actually a lot of just straight up, network TV action stuff. So what we get is they infiltrate a base that doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like a really good base. It looks like they're running through the sub basement at your local university, maybe wherever they do chemistry labs or something like that. A lot of linoleum and metal doors that have cubby portholes or whatever, where you can see inside where there are lab equipment set up, but not a lot of people. Very strange for a facility that's supposed to be studying debris and weaponizing it or whatever. Not a lot of people, and the security is trash. But you know what? Let's not ask too much. Let's not ask too many questions. Even though I was really watching, thinking, "Whoa, is this a trap or something? Is this a honeypot where they were trying to catch the orbital people rolling up in there?" But no, it's just a shitty, a very important but also shittily guarded compound. That somehow they kept it hidden, but they didn't keep it well guarded for some reason. So it essentially they pull off more or less the way you expect. They get through sneak for a while, kill a couple people, very matter of factly shoot a couple people. All the while, Brian's trying to figure out how can we make sure that George Jones doesn't die, and so he can keep his promise to Finola, but also without having to do something unsettling to some of the members of Orbital that are his teammates. And so they eventually, they work their way through and they find Finola's father, George, and that's where the decisions have to be made. And again, very good on the director for making me wonder: is Brian going to do this? But he does step forward, and the one member who is there to make sure that George Jones died, he wings. He ends up shooting one of the other members of Orbital, and then Brian, very matter of factly, surprisingly, shoots dude straight in the face. Because Brian, I guess the way we're getting the idea that Brian can be a stone cold killer. He doesn't want to be a bad guy, but he can be a stone cold killer. He makes the shot straight up without thinking about it. And what follows is, we see a lot more of Finola being a good agent, and she, they're going around shooting at people trying to extract her dad. She does care about the Orbital guy they got shot and tries to save his life. But at the end of the day, they, for whatever reason, it's hard to believe that they actually killed everybody in that facility. But they took George Jones out and nobody followed them. So I guess there were, I don't know, half a dozen people, 8-10 people that were at this facility, and they were all killed or something. Yes, I'm trying not to think too hard about what that means. I get in the back of my brain that this is budgetary reasons. It still doesn't. It still makes me think, what the hell's going on? What kind of evil or whatever clandestine organization has a facility that's so important with such an important asset and doesn't staff it so well? So I don't know. Maybe they need to go sell some Bitcoin or something. It's like so they can better fund their operation. That gets a few more people on staff. But at the end of this, there's supposed to be a rendezvous, and Finola realizes she can't trust her side. Brian can't trust his side, so they decide to go underground. They let them know we're not bringing them in, and Brian straight up lies to Maddox about George Jones being alive. And so they head to the most likely place that anyone who wants to fucking find these people should go look, which is at some rando motel in Vancouver. Washington State. I think that's where it's supposed to be. Washington State, not Vancouver. It's really totally not Vancouver. But they don't go look for them at some seedy motel, and we get a big exposition dump. It's not bad. I mean, you got to have these in shows like this where there's a whole lot of stuff you don't necessarily know. We get a big exposition dump. Cool. George Jones, we sort of find some stuff out about him. There's a nice little interplay moment between him and Finola. There's earlier on, there's a little call from her sister where we find out that, that wife, she shouldn't trust Ferris and trust MI6. And we see a little more cool stuff about who this Phillips guy is that we saw in a previous episode. And he puts on a face. So there's some kind of weird sciencey shenanigans going on there. It's a whole lot of things. In other words, there's a lot of shit we don't know. And Finola and Brian are in the same position. They are just, they're basically investigators with guns that's supposed to solve problems. And they don't even know where this all, how high does this go? What kind, what's out there? Do you dare to believe? All that's, it's X-Files. It's X-Files-ish. And I'm not saying that to crap on the show. I actually like that aspect of it. I recognize this sort of stuff. So at the end of the episode, what we find George Jones very paranoid. He wants to sleep underneath a tinfoil. Tinfoil hat's not good enough. I got to sleep under a tinfoil blanket. If it makes you sleep, resurrected dude. Yes, he's resurrected from the dead. Another fun thing. Go do your thing. He really wants to stop whatever it is that he was building for them from happening for Influx, but also he doesn't want to build it for Orbital or for MI6. And underneath all of that, there is another mystery, which is the idea of weaponizing, turning people into super powered beings or whatever, in which we see Influx was experimenting on putting bits of debris, embedding them within a person in order to give them control over whatever the power is. Very interesting idea. I hope that means we're going to be seeing some super soldier type stuff going on in the future. Should be really cool. But overall, Spaceman, pretty damn solid episode. You know what, Debris, you are off probation. You are officially off probation. I'm going to watch the rest of this season without giving you any more ultimatums, because I think they really have turned the corner here on the storytelling. They're doing the right things. I like the characters. I like what's happening. I want to know what's going on. I want to see them confront their bosses. I want to see an MI6 orbital, clandestine fight going on. And while Influx is there mopping up and getting all the pieces. I mean, there's a lot of fun stuff going on in here. I like what's going on. I like Finola and Brian. I like their chemistry. And now they become the Scully and Mulder that I wanted them to be from the first, from the first episode. And I'm loving what I'm seeing here. So, highly recommend this. You guys should check it out. And if you haven't watched Debris up to this point, watch the show. I think you're gonna like it. I think you're gonna find something. I think if my only criticism is, you can see the budgetary limitations on this show. And it's unfortunate sometimes. Maybe they spend a lot on the special effects or whatever, but they're clearly driving around the same part of the country up in Canada. So I try not to make that get too much in my head, but sometimes I look at them like, well, this is we're on a set, and there's a very limited set. They're on location at some school or something like that. That's what we're looking at here. But you know what? If that's what they got to do to get us cool sci-fi stuff, I'm with it. Good job, Debris, this week. So, what did you guys think of this episode? And what did you think of my review? Why don't you get down there in the comments? Let me know what you're thinking about. Also, if you want to contact me, chop it up a little more about this stuff, it's supernotfunnyshow@gmail.com or at supernotfunnys1. I'd love to talk about Debris and where this whole show is going. And hey, while you're at it, are you subscribed to the Super Not Funny Show? You're not? What are you doing? Get down there, hit that subscribe button, and also hit that notification bell so that you can join this Super Not Funny Show family. And also, it'll let you know when we drop new content, and we do that every week. New reviews, new reactions, anything else that floats our pop culture boat, like the Super Not Funny Show Invincible cast, where we're talking about the show Invincible. You can check that out down on the channel. All right, all you Fabricans and Fleshbags, thanks for joining me for this review of Debris, and come back next week as we review the 9th episode of Debris. Until then, I have been Jen Thépuppét, your resident Fabricant and commenter extraordinaire on all things pop culture. And I'll see you guys on the other side of the thread. Peace!